And welcome back in for another episode of the Ball Boys podcast here with your AFC and NFC South previews. And before you click off, I get it, they're the weakest divisions, but maybe we got some surprises in here because they may not be as weak as you think if you've been listening to the show for a minute. You already know a player that me and Nolan are interested in for an MVP sprinkle votes on. Maybe we're interested in his team doing well in the regular season as well. But before we hop into that, Nolan, I got a little bit of a beef with you. I told you before we started recording, and I said, let me save it for the pod. I didn't win the Madden giveaway that you were doing on Twitter. What's that about?
Hey man, I only have so much money in my bank account.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
I
kept it
if I
fair.
yeah,
Didn't rig it for me.
if I cheated the system, man, like that just would have not been good.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you want to play for some guapo in Madden, I'm fair game.
But he's trying to get me to be betting on football before NFL season already starts. Virtual football. I got you. Let me get some reps under my belt. We'll connect. But yeah, so big plug for Nolan's Twitter there. If you're not following him, give him a follow, dude. I mean, I post on Twitter a couple times a day. I see some highlights here, some stats, but you're in that Twitter game, man. You're posting videos all day, highlights. I mean, you're out there repping every team. Seriously, a go-to spot for all of it. I'm out there on the YouTube grind, but seriously, Twitter updates. Follow Nolan. His links are in the description. And if you want to be a part of Madden giveaways in the future, I mean, who's to say he doesn't do the same thing for 2K? Could be happening.
Never
But
know.
we got some football to talk about here. We're doing the South Division previews. Not a lot of news to cover. Just your quick thoughts, though, on Dalvin Cook to the Jets. As I told you was going to happen. My sources don't lie. I'm tapped in like that. You're a big Jets guy going into this season. Does Dalvin raise your expectations, or were they already just so high that he just adds points to your point really on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always had a feeling that Dalvin would land with the Jets just because that they're going all in this year, and I think that with adding Dalvin, yes, it helps him a lot. Does it totally move the needle like 100%? No, but it's an awesome addition. Brees Hall, he's iffy this year, with his injury. And that's a huge, huge help to get Dalvin Cook. And he's not an old guy, bro. Like, he's still in his prime. And to have that 1-2 with that O line that's not as good as people are believed to be, but it's an awesome addition. And I think, especially with what you're seeing in the AFC East with the injuries, with the Dolphins especially, I mean, it looks like it could be wide open for like those three teams.
Yeah, for sure. I think Dalvin is huge for early in the season for the Jets. You don't have to rely on Brees Hall to be the playmaker we know he can be coming off an ACL injury immediately. That wide receiver 2 situation there, it was shaky. Alan Lazard, Corey Davis, two guys that can be good week to week maybe, but outside of Garrett Wilson, they didn't really have a true defined weapon with Brees Hall. Where's he at injury-wise? And now with Dalvin Cook, you have a two-headed monster in that backfield as well. Ezekiel Elliott signs with the Patriots. I don't think this has much real-life NFL. What's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't matter. For the Patriots, it doesn't make them better. But for fantasy purposes, I know you dabble in that space. Me, personally, at his current ADP, back of the second, early third round, I'm out on Ramondre Stevenson. Ezekiel Elliott, the only spot he was effective last year, goal line and short yardage touches. Ramondre Stevenson struggled at the goal line last year, only 6 touchdowns. I was cool taking Ramondre there with the potential of him maybe being a top 3 running back in fantasy. At this point, unless he drops another round, I'm out.
Yeah, bro. And you mentioned it, Zeke. I forgot what exactly stat it was, but Zeke in the goal line was top 5, I think, in success or within the 5-yard line for red zone carries. But for fantasy, especially, Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook, it's tough. I think Brees Hall bumped all the way down to like late 50s, early 60s, which is pretty
Yeah,
accurate.
Brees Hall is a guy, if you got him on your team, it'd be cool if you compare him with Dalvin, I guess, but it's just tough to know what the value is going to be in the second half of the season because if Dalvin looks like a really good player, they're not going to take everything away, but they're going to want to give Brees Hall carries. It's a mess of a fantasy situation for the Jets backfield. You want Garrett Wilson. I mean, that's the honest truth of it. That's the guy you want. I'm not just
Yeah.
saying that because he's on my dynasty team. But we do got some divisions to hop into here today. We're going to start with the AFC, similar to how we did last week. Start with the AFC South. We're going to run through the division standings from last year, talk about these teams and kind of what their projections are for the season. Let me pull up the AFC South standings here. I feel like I knew them to memory, but I want to just be sure that I got them up here. All right, so here we go. The team that finished first, the Jacksonville Jaguars, 9-8 last year, finished the year on a good run after starting off poor. Trevor Lawrence, second half of the year, was outstanding. I believe throughout the second half of the year, this Jaguars team was the highest scoring offense in the NFL. They figured it out. Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence clicked. You had Christian Kirk over an 1,100-yard wide receiver. Zay Jones was scoring. Evan Ingram seemed to be unlocked. Travis Etienne, he had that big run in the playoff game. Vibes are up. Vibes are up in Jacksonville right now. Their win total for this season per Vegas, I believe, is 9.5 only. I know me and you are both on the over there, but just talk about what you're so excited for with this Jacksonville Jaguars team.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love Doug Peterson. I think the moment that the
Yeah, we
moment
didn't
that
even acknowledge you rocking the Kelly Green Jalen Hurts jersey for all of our Eagle fans.
boom, boom.
So we love
But
Dougie P.
yeah, legend. But once they got him, I was like, bro, him and Trevor Lawrence, give him a couple years. It only took 1 year to even get this some success. But having him for a second year, bringing in Calvin Ridley, they extended Evan Ingram. They have a solid offensive core. Obviously, Tank Bigsby is a big sleeper in the training camp videos, but he's been killing it. So that's a decent 1-2 punch, and defensively they're not too bad. So I think going into this year, um, I would say their expectations would probably be to get to the AFC Championship. I think that's their peak right now because the AFC is very tough, but we're gonna mention it. But the AFC South is not that good.
Yeah.
So they could sneak in, maybe get a high seed. You never know.
This team is the odds-on favorite, heavy favorite to win the AFC South, in my opinion, and I feel like rightfully so. They have the best coach in the division, in my opinion. You could argue Vrabel if you want. They definitely have the best quarterback in the division in Trevor Lawrence. You add a wide receiver one. I mean, I get it that it's training camp highlights and it's hype, but Calvin Ridley just
Mhm.
looks levels above Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, who were good, productive players last season. You brought in Tank Bigsby. We know that Dougie P likes those running back committees. He's still speaking highly of Travis Etienne. Jermichael Hasty, I promise you he'll be involved more than people will think. Evan Ingram, we know Doug Peterson also loves the tight end involved. Evan Ingram is a guy who, on the Giants for years, all the tools were there, but it just never seemed to work out. As Doug Peterson unlocked this guy's true potential, we'll see. There are some concerns with this Jacksonville Jaguars team. We could love the fantasy skill position players all we want, but when you dive a little deeper, this offensive line, 26th ranked per PFF, the defensive line, 21st ranked, former number 1 overall pick Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. So I like their edge rushers, but some things to work out on the interior side, and they have the 27th ranked secondary. So it feels to me like Jacksonville will win this division, but they're at 9.5 for the purposes of what I just read off. The team is not deep good. However, me and you are both very high on them due to their schedule, right? It's a very, very favorable schedule. They get to play the AFC South opponents that we'll get to, a weak division. The AFC South also plays the NFC South, who we'll talk about later, but those are the two weakest divisions in the NFL. Jacksonville gets to play them. Their 6 toughest games, 5 of them are home games. One of them is a London game versus the Bills, but we all know that that's a home game for Jacksonville. As
Mhm.
well, that game for Jacksonville is their second in a row in London. So while the Bills are coming over adjusting, the Jags have already been there for a week. And their home games, right? The tough games. They play the Chiefs week 2 at home. Chiefs, we know, are not a September team. They're a December, January team. Shot to get one there. They play the 49ers at home. They play the Bengals at home. They play the Ravens at home. So the schedule makers blessed Jacksonville here. And I'm not saying that they're going to win all of those games by any means, but they're a competitive team. Now you get to be at home for these games. The weak division. I think things are looking up in Jacksonville. They're going to be a top tier offense. Like I said, last year they finished the year with the first overall in scoring in the second half of the season, averaging close to 30 points per game. And we've heard Christian Kirk come out and say that that's their goal for this entire season. Offense, offense, offense. They have it. I'm excited to see what Trayvon Walker could do. But we got to move on here. Tennessee Titans last year finished 7-10. They were the exact opposite of the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Started the year pretty good. Looks like that they were going to win that division again. Maybe Jacksonville wasn't ready to take that leap, but then they fell off. The Tannehill injury, Malik Willis came in, didn't look good. Tannehill came back and didn't look good. No true wide receiver won after they traded away A.J. Brown. Then they didn't want to pay A.J. Brown, so this offseason they paid DeAndre Hopkins. All right, interesting choice there. Derrick Henry, how long can this guy keep going? So many question marks for this Titans team. You know, do you see the wheels falling off the Tennessee Titans wagon this year, or do you think this is a team that can kind of hover around 500?
All right, so the Titans are pretty much like putting lipstick on a pig. All right, whatever you do to it, it is still a pig. And the Titans, look, I just do not get their philosophy. I love Mike Vrabel as a coach, but Tannehill's just not the guy. All right, I understand you got Will Levis. You're gonna try him out. I don't. He's not gonna be that good for at least a couple of years. Malik Willis, who knows with him? You got Hopkins, and yeah, that's a great signing, but it doesn't really like move you guys to like high elite status. No, and Traylon Burks, he got hurt. Luckily, he wasn't hurt that bad, but still, he has the bug. And like you said, Derrick Henry's getting older. And I think just for me, if I was a Titans fan or just ownership, like you just have to rebuild. Like you're going for 5, 6 years strong,
So
just
we
trying
we
the best.
disagree here, actually. Do you
Okay.
think that if things go your way and the wheels go off, could you see Derrick Henry being moved at the deadline, or you think he's just kind of a career Titan? They'll let him ride it out there and keep selling jerseys and such, or do you think they try and move him? I guess obviously it depends on what you can get back, especially in a not so great running back market right now. But if the Chiefs were sending you a first rounder for Derrick Henry or something, like you have to jump over that, obviously. But would you even do it for like a second or third rounder from one of those contending teams?
I think you have to do at least the first. I think second or
Definitely a
third,
first.
if they're trying to dump salary cap, I think yes. But I think just because he's just been there for so long, he's like your whole identity of the team.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
tough, but he's still, we look at Adrian Peterson as a Viking and how many
yeah.
teams did he play after there. So you could definitely move off him. I disagree with you. Not so much that the wheels are coming off, but again, when you look at their schedule, AFC South, NFC South, second place schedule, to me, they got better for the short term. They didn't solve any problems long term, but they were 7-10 last year. Tannehill got hurt. I have them at 9-8. Um, you know, DeAndre Hopkins, I think he gets you a couple wins there, having Tannehill healthy. But when we talk about this team, the offensive line, it's literally the worst in the NFL. So who knows how long Tannehill could stay upright for. Malik Willis, Will Levis, do those guys get a shot? The most underrated part of this Titans team is their defensive line, 10th ranked in the NFL. Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute beast, but like you said, not much to be like too excited about on the Titans team. I just think there's going to be weeks where they're playing your favorite team and you're like, shit. Somehow this is a game. Derrick Henry, of course, has 110 yards and DeAndre Hopkins caught a touchdown. Like somehow this is a game. And it's going to suck some weeks playing this team. They're going to be middle of the pack good, but they're older at skill positions. They don't have a good quarterback. They have a good system, but Tannehill maybe he's playing out of that system at this point. And yeah, it's about to be rebuild time for Tennessee, and I'm not even sure that Will Levis is the guy or Malik Willis, and you almost want to find that out this season, but I don't know
Mhm.
if they're going to because again, the moves that they made felt like we want to be competitive now. Moves bringing in DeAndre
Mhm.
Hopkins. In third place last year, we had the Indianapolis Colts at 4-12-1. Obviously, not a good season for the Colts. Frank Wright fired. They draft Anthony Richardson. They bring in another Eagles offensive coordinator to be the head coach, and Shane Steichen. I think that's a good move. Anthony Richardson, we'll see. I'm not as high on him as most people. I think he's going to be good for fantasy because he runs the football. I'm just not sure if he converts the team into winning situations. Obviously, there's the whole what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. I'm glad we waited a week to do them because it seems like he's back with the team. Now he's been given permission to leave for a personal issue. Seems like it's unrelated, but I don't know. It's a not a good relationship, and if they're not doing well, maybe they move him at the deadline. Soured relationship there. But what are your year one expectations for Anthony Richardson, who was named the starter, right? I said this in one of my videos earlier, and we're going to talk about the North, but, I don't see the Packers or the Bears winning a ton of games. But can you really grade Jordan Love, especially on that? Not a ton of weapons for Jordan Love, not a ton of weapons for Anthony Richardson. Like, what's the measuring stick for how good he is for you? Is it wins? Is it the eye test? Is there certain statistical numbers you're looking for him to reach?
Okay, so first we'll get to Jordan Love once we get to NFC North. But real quick, I think for me, he's been there for this many years. If he doesn't prove it this year, he's out. So simple as that.
Yeah.
So to AR, I love AR, bro. I was a huge fan going into the draft, and I thought he's a perfect fit for Shane Steichen. It's just rinse and repeat. Jalen Hurts. Obviously, skill sets are different. But AR, he's a big body. He's stupid fast, and I think he can be a really good quarterback in the league. He has all the tools. He just has to execute. So I think for this year, for me, eye test is a big thing for me. I wins. We'll see how many wins they get, but that's debatable. But eye test, and I just think QBR too. I know the first preseason game he threw a pick on the first drive, but it comes and goes. So I'm curious to kind of see how well he plays, not just the whole year, but more so the second half, and how adjusted he gets to the pros.
Yeah, obviously we don't know Anthony Richardson's personality. But if he was trying, that was a bad pick. That was, I mean, like maybe he was just out there having fun, seeing what he could do. That was a bad look. I mean,
No,
optically,
it
that
wasn't good.
pick was bad. And if that's the decision making he's going to have this year, it's going to be a long year for Colts fans. I am not as high on Anthony Richardson as you are. I'm a Bryce Young guy, which we'll talk about when we get to the NFC South in this episode. But yeah, I am not sold on Anthony Richardson. Huge range of outcomes, though, right? Could be anywhere from prime Cam Newton all the way down to Jamarcus Russell. It really just depends. We've seen guys with this skill set succeed, guys with this skill set fail. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Anthony Richardson there. Not a ton of weapons at his disposal. Obviously, he does have Jonathan Taylor potentially, but Michael Pittman, for me, I'm not crazy about him. Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, not great. The 10th ranked offensive line, so he should have some time at least. The Colts have the 18th ranked defensive line, so DeForest Buckner, and the 31st ranked secondary. Obviously, the loss of Stephon Gilmore, but 31st ranked secondary in an AFC with all these quarterbacks. All points are gonna be put up against the Colts.
Mhm.
Definitely a matchup to target for your fantasy weeks, especially at the wide receiver position. But that's why I said it's almost that defense. I don't think is good. So judging Anthony Richardson based off of wins might not be fair. I think we'll know it if we see it, and I think a successful season for Anthony Richardson would be something similar to Justin Fields last year, where the wins didn't come, but you saw the flashes, you saw the potential, you saw the, okay, let's give this guy something to build around. But I think a lot of people are more sure on Anthony Richardson than we should be at this time. It's the time of year where everybody's positive about every NFL team. And as somebody who's been putting out videos on my channel, I got to tell you, it's no matter what team it is, man. If you say that they're not going to be good, the fans are in your comment section telling you that they're going to be good. And not every team could be good. And we'll talk about some of those teams later. I got a lot of NFC South fans in my comment section telling me that their teams are going to be good. And quite frankly, I don't think a team in that division is going to be good. But we'll get there. And of course, in last place, the Houston Texans last year. A disaster season. Davis Mills was not the answer. Shocker. 3-13-1. Bad season, but landed them the number 2 overall pick, which was CJ Stroud. Then they traded up for the number 3 overall pick, which became Will Anderson, my favorite prospect in the draft. D'Amico Ryans, the head coach. You move off of Brandon Cooks. So it's a clear youth movement with this team, right? Stroud, Pierce, Mechie, Nico Collins. They are going young offensively, and it's going to be another trial year for Houston. I don't know how different their record is this season, but they're going in the right direction. That's what I'll say. Davis Mills was never going to be the guy. Brandon Cooks was never a big part of your future. Lovie Smith wasn't a great coach. I think they upgraded everywhere that they needed to in terms of the future. Still the 25th ranked offensive line, 23rd defensive line, and 28th secondary. So, but I trust D'Amico Ryans to build up a defense in the future for Houston. The future is bright, but this season, are you looking at anything more than the young guys to show flashes? I mean, I know we're not really going to be watching because they're not nationally televised, but if I'm a Texans fan, what should I be hoping to see this season?
That CJ Stroud is not a bust.
Yeah, Ohio State quarterbacks. I know you're a Penn State guy. Where do you land on that? Do they all suck, or are we moving in an age where quarterbacks at big schools are going to be good? So your Alabamas, your Ohio States, they're getting top prospects now with NIL deals, or is there still the Ohio State quarterback curse in your mind?
Yep. So we're getting there. We're getting to the any college you're good. But for me, I said this last year. I think Justin Fields bust. And for me, I think CJ Stroud bust.
So you heard it here. Nolan says the Ohio State quarterback curse is real.
It is real. I mean, if you think it's not, you could prove me wrong. But stats, numbers never lie.
I'm gonna make Matt clip this, and Ohio State fans are gonna be coming for your head top. Yeah. Justin Fields stands are gonna be coming for your head top.
Hey, I will give him props though. He's an awesome fantasy quarterback, and he did have a lot of good strides at the end of the year last year.
Yeah, on that 10-game losing streak, he looked pretty good.
But going back to the Texans, besides Stroud, I love the Will Anderson pick. He's an awesome pick. D'Amico Ryans, I think he's a great coach for that team. Identity finally got one. But quarterback, that's a huge thing. And if Stroud is not the guy, which I don't think he is, that's you're going 10 steps backwards. But I do give him props for going out with a bang, and getting Stroud and Anderson, to get your foot on the calendar for D'Amico Ryans. But we'll see. They got young talent. That receiver, I forgot his name.
John Mechie.
Is it Mechie?
I don't know which one you're thinking of, but John Mechie last year had cancer and then got to play this year. You're thinking of Tank Dell.
Yes. I've heard
huge preseason week 1.
He's been killing it so far. So I mean, maybe
a lot of young talent there. Mechie, Collins, Dell.
So we'll see. They're in a weak AFC South. So I mean,
look for them to be competitive in division.
Yeah, definitely a lot better than we're used to seeing them. Especially last year, that was beyond awful.
And who knows? In 3 or 4 years, CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson twice a year could be a very entertaining head-to-head. But let's hop into our predictions here. I'm gonna run through mine, and then you could hit yours. In fourth place, I have the Houston Texans. I have them at 4-13. Instead of a tie, I have them having a win. Not too much improvement, a half a game better overall. A lot of growing pains this year. CJ Stroud, I don't think he's necessarily a bust, but I think that there's certain things that aren't going to transition well to the NFL for him. This is a guy whose receiving core over the last 2 years consisted of Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And those guys were usually pretty wide open on his first read at Ohio State. Not going to happen in the NFL. We saw it in the first preseason game against Belichick and that Patriots defense. They had him flustered a little bit, and that's preseason. There's going to be mistakes early. There's going to be mistakes often for CJ Stroud. It's flashes in the pan. Will Anderson, look for him to make an immediate impact on the defense. In third place, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Not much better at 5-12. I think the roster is slightly better, and I think Anthony Richardson has enough athletic talent that he'll be able to win some games on the back of his legs rather than decision making and throwing early on compared to CJ Stroud. But overall, I think this team is pretty similar to Houston in terms of skill set. Both teams should be in the top 10 picks next year. Jonathan Taylor could be gone. As I mentioned, in second place, I have the Tennessee Titans at 9-8. Listen, it's maybe a product of a weak division. Gets to play Houston twice, gets to play the Colts twice, but you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, you're clearly looking to be in a win now situation, which is more than I could say for a lot of teams that have that bad of a roster. There's going to be a Caleb Williams sweepstakes, so maybe the Titans play spoiler to somebody's playoff hopes at the end of the year in a Week 17, Week 18 matchup, and it's a heartbreaking loss. But in first place, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 13-4 as the number one seed in the AFC. I'm putting my stamp on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love Trevor Lawrence this year, love Doug Peterson. Like I said, the team has some clear flaws. I think they're going to be buyers at the deadline as well. It's really a product of the team was 9-8 last year. I think in a normal schedule, it's a 10-11 win team, but the schedule is just so damn favorable for them. The NFC South, that's the NFC division they get to play weak. The AFC South, their division, super weak, like we just talked about. Their toughest games at home. Get Kansas City early in the year, could get a win there. Get Buffalo in London, could get a win there. And later in the year, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and still a hot Jacksonville environment while those teams are normally up north. No cold weather for them. I think the pieces are aligning for Jacksonville to have a breakout year, Trevor Lawrence to have a breakout year. We've seen what wide receiver ones can do for quarterbacks. Look what A.J. Brown did for Jalen Hurts last year. We've seen what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen, Jamar Chase for Joe Burrow. I mean, we can keep going here. Calvin Ridley is going to be that for Trevor Lawrence. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win this division easily, going to crush that 9.5 point over or 9.5 win total, hitting that easy. Hammer Dan on that bet right there. Jacksonville Jaguars winning the division and being the number one seed in the AFC. Doesn't mean I have them going to the Super Bowl, but I have them as the one seed in the regular season. Nolan, are we the same for the third straight division?
No.
Ooh.
So we got the Texans, fourth place, 4 wins. I think that's reasonable. Nothing too much to say about them.
Mm-hmm.
Third place, we got the Tennessee Titans, 6-11.
Okay.
All right. So here's where I stand. Like I said before, I think this is the year where just the wheels fall off. Tannehill's there. The stuff isn't working. I know the schedule is favorable, but the Titans, they're a sus team, man. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, they are sus. So because of that, I just do not believe in them this year. So because of that, 6 wins. Colts, I have it in second place. I just looked at the schedule. I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to say anything outlandish, but I'm gonna give them 8 wins. I think they can get 8 wins this year. I think that's definitely possible. The schedule is super easy, and I think they could pull some W's out of there. And then last but not least, the Jags. I'm not as high as you are. They could definitely get to 13.
I don't think anybody's going to be as high as I am.
No, but I think 11 wins is definitely, I would say would be my guess. But if they got to 13, 14, I would not be surprised. Like you said, I think they got the mojo this year. They got all the goods, Calvin Ridley and the boys. I think they can do it. So
Yeah, so where we flip flop is Colts Titans. Let us know in the comment section whose AFC South do you think is more right. If you're enjoying the pod right now, hit that subscribe button. Ton of good content here on the College Kids YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the College Kids Experience on Twitter for all of your sports betting needs. The NFL season's right around the corner. If you want to make some money and you're not following them, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hit that follow button. But time to move forward into the NFC South, the weakest division in football, but somebody's got to win it. And there's some young talent in here to talk about. Last season, the NFC South, I'm laughing because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the division at 8-9. Not even a winning record was enough to take it home. Obviously, for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady no longer the quarterback. He's gone. He left. And now it's a Baker Mayfield from the sound of things. It sounds like he's beating Kyle Trask right now. Obviously, you still have Mike Evans. You still have Chris Godwin in that receiving core. Rashad White going to be taking over. They have the 14th ranked offensive line per PFF, 25th ranked defensive line, and 13th ranked secondary. This is a division where, you can make a case for any team. I just find myself struggling to make one for Tampa Bay. I just don't believe in them. I don't believe in Baker. Where do you stand on the whole Baker Mayfield situation? Do you think he's the starter at the end of the season? Do you think this could be a resurgence with some good weapons, or did you sell all your mojo stock on Baker Mayfield?
Hey man, I've been a huge, not I wouldn't say hater, but I disapprove of Baker since he stepped foot when he got drafted to the Browns. All right, so I think him on the Bucks, this is a disaster. I think he could get some wins. He'll have some good moments, but look. I'm speechless because, like me, as a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, they got that ring, awesome, but I do not see a future in the next 5 years unless they could get Caleb or Derek May.
Yeah.
But they do have some solid. I mean, Chris Godwin, obviously, a Penn State guy. Mike Evans, he's there. He's getting older. But they definitely have some talent. Rashad White, offensively and defensively too. So I mean, if they could maybe get a quarterback, maybe next year they could maybe make some noise because the NFC South is so weak. But this year, I do not see anything positive coming out of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I want Baker to be successful, man. And maybe we disagree here. I'm a huge Baker fan. I'm off the wagon at this point. Fool me once with the Cleveland Browns after your rookie year. Shame on you. Fool me twice after that playoff win and coming into next season and they had the opener against the Chiefs and you thought, oh man, Baker with OBJ, Landry, fool me twice. Shame on me. I will not let Baker Mayfield fool me a third time. If he's good, great. I'll be happy for him, but it's just not something I could buy into at this point. I think Mike Evans could be on the move at the deadline. We've seen a lot of good wide receivers be moved at the deadline. I don't know if he fits the timeline for a rookie quarterback. Could tank season beyond for the Buccaneers? Very possible. Obviously, if they're not winning games, we'll see Trask out there just so they know what they got in him. But Shaq Barrett, Mike Evans, these veteran guys, Levante David, look for them to potentially be moved at the deadline if the Buccaneers aren't a good team. But again, if Baker was number one pick in a weak division, if they finished the year 9-8 and won the division, I wouldn't be shocked, but I won't be picking it. So now we have a three-way tie for second place. I'm going to just go off the order that Google has it. Carolina Panthers, 7-10. Obviously, the Panthers' big offseason moves, bring in Frank Wright and draft Bryce Young and get him a ton of weapons. Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and Hayden Hurst. The whole offense is brand new. So the way you feel about Anthony Richardson is the way that I feel about Bryce Young. And I've caught a lot of flack for my belief in this Panthers team. which is crazy when we get to the record predictions that my belief in them is outrageous because the belief is not a crazy belief, let me tell you. But I just think Bryce Young is the most NFL ready quarterback. And I think it's very similar to what we saw with Mac Jones a couple years ago. Does he have the intangibles that the other guys have? No. But at Alabama, playing SEC defenses with these, is he accustomed to good weapons? Absolutely. But it's the SEC football is the closest you're going to get to being ready for the pros. Bryce Young's done it for a while. He's won a Heisman. I think he's better than Mac Jones. And Mac Jones, his first year, made a Pro Bowl as an alternate and made a playoff game. Bryce Young, I'm not calling a Pro Bowl shot. We'll see how many people back out. But Bryce Young, his first year, wins Rookie of the Year, or is maybe not because we got to talk about Bijan a little bit. But wins, best quarterback of this class in the first year and leads the Panthers to potentially a playoff game in a weak division. I can see it. They have the 16th ranked offensive line, which I know it sounds middle of the pack, but we'll talk about all these other teams. Every team in this division that the Panthers will be facing has a 25th ranked or worse defensive line. So that 16th ranked offensive line in division is going to be fine. 21st ranked secondary. And I don't know about you, but I'm a huge JC Horn guy. I think this team is young. I think they have a lot of potential. I think Frank Wright is a better coach than he showed in Indianapolis. Maybe that's some Eagles bias, but he had old Phillip Rivers, crappy Carson Wentz, old Matt Ryan. This is the best quarterback he's going to have gotten the opportunity to be the head coach of in Bryce Young. So I am excited for this season for Carolina. What are your expectations for them?
Yeah, so I'm a big Bryce guy too. Philly guy, obviously not too long, but still reps Philly. Went over to Cali, did his work there. But I mean, I forget which game it was. It wasn't last year. It was the year before. But I was watching Bryce Young, and I was like, damn, this guy is like really good. And obviously, he's very undersized, but that doesn't mean anything because you have Russell Wilson, and he,
Drew Brees was that size. I'm not
exactly.
saying he's going to be Drew Brees, but the accuracy, the willingness to stand in the pocket and get hit,
Yeah.
he's a little bit more mobile. So, we've seen it work before.
Yeah, so I think as long as he stays healthy, he'll have a decent NFL career. Going into this year, though, I don't. I know the NFC South is weak, but I just do not see the Panthers. They still have a lot of holes, and I love Frank Reich. I love Bryce Young, but I still think they're missing a couple pieces. I couldn't go OD on that, but I think he'll have a decent year for his rookie season.
Yeah, so bright future for the Carolina Panthers. Let's move on. Talk about the New Orleans Saints. They were 7-10 last year. They bring in a new quarterback in Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, a 3-game suspension to start the year. Jamal Williams, the NFL's touchdown leader, rushing touchdown leader from last season, brought in. Derek Carr, obviously a huge improvement at quarterback from Andy Dalton and
Yeah.
Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. And, Derek Carr has become a little underrated in the NFL. Had some successful years with the Raiders, multiple playoff runs with that dysfunctional organization. Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, Kendre Miller, one hell of a running back room once Kamara's back. Chris Olave, I don't include Michael Thomas when I talk about these things because he gets about 3 weeks of NFL action in. But if Michael Thomas were to stay healthy miraculously, not wishing injury on the guy, just, the last time that he had a fully healthy season, Kevin Durant was on the Warriors. So why don't you put that one in your mind? And, the offensive skill pieces are there. They have the 24th ranked offensive line, 29th ranked defensive line, and 19th ranked secondary. I think PFF might be a little low on their secondary. Lattimore, Roby, May, Tyrann Mathieu. I don't know. I don't know how it's 19th. I didn't do the math on every team's secondary. I relied on PFF for that. But I know you're big on the Saints this year. I know you like them. Tell us what you love about New Orleans.
All right, so last year, the Eagles had the draft pick, so I was hoping that they would be asked. And I was like, a lot of people were high on them, and I was like, I just don't see it. They have no quarterback, they got a lot of different new pieces coming in. There's just too much going on. And look what happened. They were asked.
Ass.
But go, going into this year, I think they will not be asked. All right. So they got Derek Carr, and he's probably the most what am I going to say? the most debatable quarterback in NFL. I think because he's just like there's so many people who either you love him or you hate him, and there's people that are in between. And for me, I'm in between, and I think this is a really good spot for him. All right, so Chris Olave, lock this in. He's gonna have a top 5 fantasy year receiver wise.
Spicy.
Lock that in.
Spicy.
All right.
I saw
So
that tweet earlier from you. I was hoping you'd bring it up, but spicy take.
yeah. So hey, if he might be like 6 or 7, but I think
No,
top
you
5.
said top five.
Oh,
No.
hey, that's what I said.
We
It's gonna
saying
happen.
PPR, half PPR, or are we grading
Uh,
on?
I play half PPR and PPR, so I mean, if one of them hit,
Fair
it's
enough.
cool with
It's a
me.
bold
So
prediction, so we'll give you
eh,
some wiggle room.
I'll take it. But he's gonna ball this year, bro. So him, Michael Thomas, you said obviously, but we'll see what happens. Jamal Williams, I think, is a huge pickup for them. Obviously, the Kamara news and Kendra Miller, but still, even before that, I think he's a solid addition to that team, and he's still a really good running back. They still have a lot of good pieces on defense, like you mentioned, and like you said, the NFC South is super weak, and I think that they take advantage of that, and that they still, take the division. Um, win wise, I'll get to later, but um, I just for me, it's more so I don't really like anybody else in NFC South.
Yeah, I
It's
mean it's a
because
bad
I'm a
division. My biggest gripe with the Saints is I think Dennis Allen's the worst head coach in football. So
yeah,
that's my issue with them there. But let's talk about this Falcons team because you talk about a team with a wide range of outcomes.
yeah.
I'll tell you what. You tell Falcons fans that their team isn't going to be good. They're in your comment section questioning your knowledge of football somehow. And we'll get to my record prediction. I thought I was fair, but this offseason, drafting Bijan Robinson, the future rookie of the year, dude's an absolute beast out of Texas. Behind that offensive line, he might rush for 2K his first year. Probably not rush for 2K with Algier there, but maybe 2K all-purpose yards. Bring in Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, some other vets on defense, Desmond Ritter full season, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, 7th ranked offensive line, 27th ranked defensive line, 23rd ranked secondary. So a mixed bag for this Falcons team, but it all really lands on what is Desmond Ritter. And my answer to that is garbage. I don't believe in this guy, and that is met with some heavy criticism. And listen, I'm never preying on some NFL player's downfall. I hope Desmond Ritter goes out there and proves me wrong. But I come up here and I'm going to give you my honest thoughts. I think Desmond Ritter sucks. You play 4 games and only throw 2 touchdown passes. By the way, those 2 came in 1 game. You finished the season with 3 straight games without throwing a touchdown as a quarterback. And Kyle Pitts was out, sure. But you still had Drake London, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier. Like, is it the most amazing weapons? No. But you went 2-2 and you couldn't throw a touchdown? You couldn't throw one. And a lot of people were like, oh, he's game managing. That was the script. Yeah. You know who doesn't ever game manage? Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. And I am not saying that Desmond Ritter has to be those guys this season. But I don't recall those guys ever game managing. And it's just, if he's not ever going to be those guys, are you just content with being middle of the pack? I mean, I guess it could win you this division, but I don't know. I just don't think he's the answer for this Falcons team. I think that they should be in the Kyler Murray sweepstakes this offseason if Arizona gets a top tier pick. I'm trying to think of some other quarterbacks that could be on the move. Maybe you go make a move for a Kirk Cousins. There's just so much offensive talent. Bijan, London, Kyle Pitts. I just don't know if Desmond Ritter can provide enough for this offense to win enough games without a super strong defense. People are high on their defense. I'm not. I think they signed some big names, but Calais Campbell is like 40 years old now. Jesse Bates is a good safety, but it's the most, it's the running back of defense. Safety is not a very valuable position in today's NFL. I love AJ Terrell. I think he's an underrated corner, but the Falcons, for me, they're a middle of the pack team. Where do you view them?
All right, so I have a really good friend who's a Falcons fan, and I know actually a lot of Falcons fans, and they're
high on that team. They are high on their own supply.
100%. And I've been back and forth with them all off season, and they had a decent free agency. They got some big guys. Um, so first of all, Arthur Smith looks like he's a Chick-fil-A manager, bro. That guy is a horrible head coach. I don't care what anybody says. It's a
A lot of
pass.
people love him.
Yeah, it's a pass-happy league, and this guy is running the ball like 20 times a game, bro. Like, I don't know what he's doing. Second of all, there are a lot of people. I'm gonna say a lot of people, like the Falcons friends I have, they say that Bijan Robinson was a better pick than Jalen Carter. And for me, they're both amazing talents. All right, don't get me wrong, but if you're the Falcons, I think 100% you would have to take Jalen Carter because offensive line and defensive line, when you have no quarterback,
I think it was more so the legal issues there
yeah,
for
100%.
their internal front office. But again, Falcons fans are telling you that Bijan's a better prospect than Jalen Carter. If you were a win-ready team, sure, but you have the 27th ranked defensive line, and you had Tyler Algier who ran for 1,000 yards last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm not the biggest on Drake London. I think he's good, but I don't see the high talent like
I don't think he's a true one.
No, I don't see that. Kyle Pitts, I think he could be very good. I just don't think in Atlanta. That's my opinion.
I just think he's had terrible quarterback play,
yeah,
and he's going to continue to
until he gets out of there. You got Bijan. I love Bijan at Texas. He was amazing, and obviously Desmond Ridder. The real question, like you said, I'm in agreement. I just I do not see it. And I know that it's like, oh, he has his weapons now. He's another off season. But if, he's still mid, and I think it could surprise me. It could surprise both of us. But I don't see it happening. And for that reason, I'm out.
All right. Yeah, me too. Why don't you run down your division from 4 to 1? Start at the bottom, work your way to the top.
So number four, I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Win-wise, I'm going to say 4. Wouldn't be surprised if they got 3. Bad season for Tampa. You got your ring. Good job.
Yeah. Worth it for the ring.
Exactly. Third, I'm going to take Carolina. I know you have Carolina going high this year, but I don't see it.
Say that, but
I'm not going to say I don't see it. I would not be surprised if they did do it because of like how weak it is, and if they pick up some steam, they could do it. But I just not for me. Win-wise, I'll give them 6. I'll give them 6 wins. Atlanta second. I'll give Atlanta, I think, 8. I want to say 7, but I think 8's reasonable. 8 wins for Atlanta, and then obviously the Saints 1. I'll give them probably 9, maybe 10. I think 9 though. I think 9's my number.
So we have pretty similar predictions here. In fourth, I as well have Tampa at 4-13. I think it's a 3-team race. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Atlanta, New Orleans, or Carolina won this division. It's not a good division. Any one of those teams could do it. It's about whose young players produce. But I don't think Tampa's in the running. I have them at 4-13. Again, I talked about it. I think they'll be sellers at the deadline. Then I have the Falcons in third at 6-11. I got a lot of hate for that prediction, because I have them one game worse, I guess. People were like, how are they one game worse when they got undeniably better? Just the way the schedule shook out, man. I don't know. Other teams got better too. Mm-hmm. I think Carolina and New Orleans got better. So I just don't think it's fair to be like, oh, how is Atlanta not winning games? Because it's not just based on Atlanta. It's based on their schedule and what other teams improve that they have to face. And again, I don't believe in their quarterback. I don't full-heartedly believe that Desmond Ridder is better than Marcus Mariota, and they won 7 games last year with the combination of both of those guys under center. 6 games now doesn't. I think they're a very similar team. Like Tyler Algier already ran for 1,000 yards last year. Like, how much better is Bijan going to be? Mm-hmm. Like, he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, absolutely, but so was their, guy last year. Kyle Pitts isn't going to be anything with a bad quarterback. So I have them at 6-11. Falcons fans will probably be in the comment section of this video too if they catch wind of me talking about their team again. In second place, I have the New Orleans Saints at 9-8. Dennis Allen, man. That's my biggest gripe. I just don't trust him at the end of games, and I don't think they have enough talent to be blowing teams out in games. And their defense, especially the defensive line, and especially the offensive line too, games are won in the trenches. They're not strong there. And I have the Panthers winning the division at 9-8. I just think the Panthers have a better division record. Really, I have them and the Saints neck and neck, but the NFL season doesn't go the way that you expect it to. Gotta have a team in that's a surprise. For me, it was the Carolina Panthers. Like I said at the beginning of the segment, Bryce Young I view in a similar light to Mac Jones rookie year. Good situation, good coach, some talent around him. He's in a not so great division, Bryce Young. He's got the NFL IQ, coming from Alabama. He'll be ready to win right away, and I think in that division he does. And the Panthers win it at 9-8. Again, be sure to let us know whose predictions you like better in the comment section. If my YouTube is any indication, Nolan will for sure get all the votes here, because people, listen, I get it. The Panthers is a bold prediction. The NFL season doesn't go the chalk way we expect it to. But be sure to let us know your predictions in the comment section. Next week, we are coming at you with the North. Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, AFC North, crazy. And how high are we on the Lions? You mentioned the Packers earlier, a lot to dive into there. We're going to talk about Justin Fields again, so be sure you are tapped in. And all NFL season, we're going to be coming up here talking football for you all. College Kids Experience YouTube channel, baseball, MMA, you name it, it's on the channel. Give us a subscribe, follow us on socials, subscribe to my YouTube, make sure you follow Nolan on Twitter, follow the College Kids Experience on Twitter to win Sports Best this year. A lot of ad read. Catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.